Hello, how are you?
Good. Finally get to see your face.
Hmm.
How's life going?
It's going.
It's going. Okay. Thank you
How
so
about
much for taking time to yeah, good. Life's been good. Expecting a baby in
you? Oh,
April.
wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a lot of scary and exciting and new emotions, I'm sure, to
How many
feel.
kids do you have? Or do you have
None.
kids? Okay. The way you sounded like you've had some experience with it, so that's why I asked. So
No, I've raised kids. I've never, yeah,
ah,
I've only helped.
I see. Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time to I know how valuable this is because I know based on your experiences. I've seen some of the things you've done in the past, you social impact and helping people from non-traditional backgrounds. And the fact that you're Latin, but you still are interested in blacks and brown. So,
I'm black and Puerto Rican.
oh really? Where's your mom
Yeah.
from or dad from?
My father, he's no longer alive, but he's black Cuban.
Ah,
So if anyone was to see him, he just, he's a black man. So
right,
my mom's
right.
Puerto Rican. But
Nice.
my mom raised us since I was like 6 years old.
Hmm.
When I was as a baby, the youngest memory I have, she
Hmm.
always said we were black and Puerto Rican.
Nice.
So my mom's very well educated in knowing her roots
Okay.
as a person from the island. Yeah.
Hmm. I heard Puerto Ricans are kind people.
Well,
But
I mean, some people can be kind.
yeah.
In the island, colorism is a thing. So
All right. I have a Puerto Rican lawyer. We met in LA. We went to this, what's the name of this place? It's like a car museum where, you
mm,
have different classic cars. And that's how we
nice.
just connected. And, from there, we've just been in touch. But yeah, pretty good guy. Okay.
Okay.
So I just basically wanted to hear your story, first of all, and then share with you why I've been trying to connect with you. All right. So basically, what's like your first project like in the tech? How did you get interested in tech, basically?
Um, so I got interested in tech. Do you know anything about like Philly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
North Philly or South Philly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So North Philly, it's still really rough in North Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from a high school that had 75% dropout rate. I myself didn't really know how to read, write
Mm-hmm.
too well, and I didn't know how to do math well, even though math was my favorite subject. So I had the curiosity to problem solve. I just didn't have the right teachers to bring those skill
Right.
sets out. Um, I basically got into college in a really unusual way. My pastor helped me get into this program for Black and Latino youth
Mm.
from poor communities. He likes working with the worst kids and try to help them get better. So I was one of the worst kids that he was working with.
Wow.
Um, and you sign up to go to college, 2 summers before you're 18 to help get you on track. I hated the idea of going into this program, but my pastor was really on my back
Hmm.
saying you should really do this. Like you should
Right.
really try to go to college. And I was already doing like social justice work in my community at a very young age. So I was bringing up awareness, that in my high school, there, there was, what is that called? People with asthma. So it
Hmm.
was like 90% of people had asthma. Even if you didn't have asthma before going to the school, you have asthma by entering the
Did you
school.
have asthma?
I did not. No, I
Okay.
did not. But, I felt like it was a natural trait that all my friends and family had.
And
And I
yeah.
was just like, this is just so weird. Like, why do people just get asthma? Like, that's weird. But it was the low, it's the air quality. We had lead in our water, so we did a test,
Ooh.
and then we brought, the press to kind of shame our school, and the school was forced to close all the water fountains down and give us bottled water. Um, so I finally, I get into college and I don't know anything. Um, Still, I go into rooms today, and a lot of times I don't know the vocabulary, the lexicon that people are using. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, what? I don't understand. And that's basically like where my love of the internet and a laptop comes in.
Right.
Is I was failing out of high school when I was failing out of college, and I told my mom, I don't want to go back to school. I was like, I don't think it's made for me,
How old were
because
you by this time?
it wasn't made for me,
Okay.
So it's not just a feeling,
Mm.
it's how
Were you
people
like
make you
18,
feel.
19? How old were you
Yeah,
then?
I was 18 years
Okay,
old,
so
but
you
it's
could
how
decide.
people make you feel.
Right.
Um, People make you feel different. People make you feel like, you know, if you're from the hood, you're not allowed
Mm-hmm.
in certain places. Um, my family, when they came drop me off, I have a Black and Puerto Rican visibly family. I know I look racially ambiguous. No one knows what I
Sure,
am,
sure.
but if you see my family, you know, like, oh, that family is a mixed family.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people give me a lot of shit for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a white roommate who would say like racist things, and
Mm-hmm.
she called like the campus. She did a foul. Like she created this case around me saying that I was like threatening and scary,
Mm.
and that my Black friends and family was going to hurt her. um, and I had, I did not feel comfortable in college, and I didn't want to be around this place because I grew up, though it was poor, though it was the hood, I grew up with Black and Puerto Rican people.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere I looked, it's people who look like me,
Right.
and it's people who sound like me, it's people who act like me. It's good, kind people. Like
Mm.
when I say kind, my grandmother, we live in the hood, right? She leaves her front door open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you're hungry, open up the door. She keeps food
For
cooked on the
anybody?
stove. And everyone on the block, everyone in the
Wow.
neighborhood knew this. So if you ever needed food, if you ever
Wow.
needed anything, you go in, you serve yourself, you wash the dish, and you leave. And that's the type of family I'm from.
Mm.
You take care of your people.
Mm-hmm.
You're not scared of your people, you take care of them.
Take care of them.
And then me going to college, it was not that vibe. It was like, how much money, what high school you come from. Like, it's all this
What car
credential.
did you drive? Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't used to that. And then when, I wanted to drop out, my mom, she asked me like why. I told her I didn't have a laptop. A lot of students may not have to work because their families may send them money when they go to college. I had to work in college. I didn't have even money for books in college. I couldn't afford to go to school. It's not like I could afford to go to school. I couldn't afford to go to school, but I still went. Um, so my mom, with a lot of people, fundraised money to give me my first laptop. On the laptop, I was able to meet with people online, like how you and I are doing.
Yeah.
We just talk and have a conversation, and I could say like, hey, I don't know this. I
Right.
don't know this topic. I don't know this part of history. I don't know math. I don't know English that well. I don't know so much, and so many people didn't make me feel badly for not knowing. They didn't make me feel dumb. They were just like, oh, here's this resource, here's this toolkit, here's this video, here's this breakdown. And if you need help, let us know and we can help you.
What community did you first join? Was it Meetup or?
No, Meetup was not even around. This is like mad old. So there was
Two
like this thing
decades
called
ago?
like Ask Jeeps and like Yahoo groups and
Okay.
it was super
Yeah.
like I'm old, bro. I look young, but I'm mad old. I'm 36.
People
So
tell
when
me
I
that
first
as well, so don't worry, I get it all the time. I know I look 28, right?
so yeah, so going online, a lot of I was able to connect with a lot of people who give me
Mhm.
great resources. And obviously anyone can give you resource, but it's up to you to apply that
Right.
resource um to have the mindset of like, I don't know this and
Right.
this is tough and I feel embarrassed. I feel like I'm dumb sometimes, but I know just I don't know. But tomorrow I'll know something more
Mhm.
and I'll keep learning. And it's just the mindset of like, I'm going to keep learning and learning and learning until I had like the highest GPA of a person of color in my math major. So I ended up studying applied statistics. I got the Frederick Douglass Achievement Award,
Mhm.
um, which meant so
Yes.
much to me,
Right.
where it's like, wow, I got an award for my academic achievements.
Achievements.
And for so many years, I didn't even know I could be good at math. And I have like a 3.8 or 3.67 GPA in applied statistics.
Hmm.
Well,
That
that was
reminds
like my overall GPA,
Mhm.
but in applied statistics, it was a 3.8.
Nice. That
That was just
reminds me, you had a speech impediment one time. How did you overcome that?
listen. So my speech impediments, that's another thing, like going in college, I got made fun of all the time. Like people just thought it was the funniest thing. I couldn't say a lot of words. I grew up in a lot of trauma. Growing up in like the crack epidemic era, you grow up seeing a lot of things. Um, but I would say technology also helped in that aspect. I did also have a speech therapist when I was like super young in
Okay.
school,
Yeah.
because in school in Philly, I was forced to be like in a learning disability course, so you can't even be with the other kids. They put you in this very unique class with people who need extra attention, and
Mhm.
it wasn't that I needed that attention. I just couldn't speak.
Mhm.
And I needed a therapist to help me like speak. But it was also technology that helped because I was able to put subtitles and captions.
Oh,
I
okay. I was gonna say, how did you do that?
still today I put captions in everything I read because I'm a visual learner,
Mhm.
and I hear it and then I see it and I'm like, oh, that's how you spell
Audio
that
visual.
word.
Is it audio
That's
visual? I think no. Is it? I
Yeah,
don't know.
as a visual learner. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it just helps me process stuff.
Mhm.
Uh and then I also can see how someone says something. Because if I never know how to say a word,
Right.
how just because I read it doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to know how to say it. I don't know how
Yeah.
to say the word.
Yeah.
So seeing and hearing how people talk on TV, then I would like practice.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm very mindful, like TH. I have to stick out my tongue.
Uh, you sound perfectly fine to me. I
I
don't know.
know, but I'm saying people don't realize like I'm actually thinking
Right.
how I'm supposed to move my tongue as I'm speaking. It
All right.
doesn't come completely easy or natural.
It's very
Um,
intentional.
so then when people, it's hard for me to just get up and speak.
Right.
I need because then I get nervous, and then if I get nervous, then it stops me from like thinking about,
Mhm.
well, I don't know if I can say this. I don't know, you know, I get like
Right.
really nervous, and then you can hear. I feel like you could definitely hear more of my speech issues come out because of it.
Hmm.
But
But yeah, that's a tough background to come out of. Well, I mean, that's what makes you strong in life, right?
it's a tough background to come out
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
It's
because
a
it made you strong now. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Because um, if you were born maybe with a silver spoon, probably would be a different story entirely. And I think
right.
sometimes we go through the things we go through because it's preparing us for a better, lifestyle, or to also show other people the way, to help other people. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
To me it was interesting because going to college, you hear so many academics talk about like justice,
right.
but a lot of people don't even they don't even like
They don't
live
take
that
action.
experience.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't live that experience and they don't take action. And then a lot of people, you have this upward mobility of climbing like a American dream type of ladder, like the corporate dream. And then they really think individualism, like I'm just going to take care of me.
right.
And then whenever I get all the way to the top, then I'll go
I'll
help my
start pulling
people.
you guys up.
Then I'll start helping my people.
Yeah,
And it's like, you know how often we hear that in the hood, how often we hear people say, oh, then I'm going to come back. And people don't
they
come
never
back.
come back.
They don't come back. Or they come back to do, like a very low impact conversation. And
Hmm.
people actually need like help, resources. People need to bring awareness. And
Right.
to me, I thought what was so interesting that I went from a kid not being able to speak to an adult who can actually present
Hmm.
critical thought, thinking, an argument, and now I can actually say what we're going through, and I can say like, no, actually, that's not what's happening, and this is
Right.
unfair, and we
Right.
need to bring resources here.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, I feel I've always been super inspired, even of the way that I started being able to like to talk because I'm like, you know,
Is
I
this
can
me?
help. I can help. And yo, it's just like one, I can't even believe that this is who I'm turning out to be. But two, I get to speak on behalf and with and support and solidarity with my community and say what is hurting us
Mhm.
and how can we bring more solutions.
Yeah, it's really, like I said from the beginning, it's really what you've done is like admirable. Anywhere you go, just be like, whoa, is this what you did? Okay,
Thank you.
so run me through your like, what's your day like at work? Let's like as an operations lead, and philanthropy manager at your company, private foundation. Um,
So I'm no longer doing that,
okay.
but
Or how was your
so
day
I
there?
was. You said what?
How was it there? Like a normal everyday activity?
So my normal day activity right now, I actually started. I'm the head of operations of a tech startup, and I just took
Oh,
that job in January. This tech startup focuses on data infrastructure, and
right.
I help the company basically run. So with my role is intersectional with every department from technical to non-technical, mostly working and making sure projects are deployed and executed on time, resources are there. um,
Mm.
and I'm still very brand new in this position, but before, what I did as the operations for a private foundation, I was working with this private foundation that wanted to help social justice movements around the world, specifically working on like land rights, on food sovereignty,
Mm.
and political education. So education to really understand like what is oppression,
Right.
um, how and why. is poverty a thing and why is it growing?
Mhm.
Um, and understanding like how did we get to these economic conditions that we're
Yeah.
living in, not just here in the United States, but internationally. Like, can we understand how we are all interconnected
Mhm.
through the struggle, through the working class, how education is kept from us equally as marginalized communities everywhere, how a phone in the US, this phone may cost like $1,000.
Right.
Um, Someone at the sales team may make like $30 to sell me this phone, but the person who put the phone together in like China and like Foxconn probably made like $1 to put this phone together. And then even taking it back and focus on like where did this phone get its resources from places
Right.
like the Congo, and how much money goes to the people and miners in the Congo to get us like these things and what's happening and how is everything connected.
Mhm.
So when I speak of social justice and human rights, I'm not just talking about my community. I'm talking about my community as a global, and I have a global perspective, and
Mhm.
I'm able to also think of it locally and globally. So we did a lot of education projects around that, so people can meet other people. Um, People who are like the Strack Dullers and the Abahali movement in South Africa can also interact with the Ferguson youth in the US
Right.
who are, fighting against police brutality, and how can we find lessons
Mhm.
connecting with one another. So that's mostly what I did for like a decade. Um, and just these days, I'm still very much into social justice and
Right.
impact. I'm also, my new job that I just started in January, it's helping me understand more tech because I left the tech scene and I want to
Right.
still be able to have those tech skills. So it's just understanding those tech skills.
Okay. But you still work with tech activist organization. You still do your thing there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I just wanted to be sure if you still. Did you have
Yeah.
anything? Did you have anything to do with programming or in the past?
So I only studied programming maybe for like 6 months. I studied
Okay.
Java. Java was the only language I really learned how to like build stuff. And I created like a couple of games, as a student,
Mhm.
uh, some wireframes, some GUIs, like
Mhm.
I learned enough, and this is what I tell people. Just because you learn how to read and write, and
Right.
this is not my thought. I actually heard this from somewhere. I don't know from who. And then I just loved it so much that I also reshare this phrase that I
Mhm.
heard, which just because you learn how to read and write, it doesn't make you an author.
Right.
But you need to know how to read and write in order to participate in the job market, in our economy, in the world, regardless if you want to be a creative or if you actually want to be a technical writer, like an actual like
Yeah.
editor.
Yeah.
And the same thing with computer programming. The world has moved to a digital world, regardless what position, what industry you're
You're
in.
in. Mhm.
Everything has a technical component and aspects, and it's to everyone's benefit to be able to understand computer programming and understand how something was written. It doesn't mean you have to be a computer programmer, but it definitely makes you uh, marketable in the job in jobs, and
Mhm.
you it takes away that fear also, because then you know what's possible and what's not possible. So if someone's BSing you as well, you're like,
Right.
actually, no. But if you never have any idea of what and how tech
Lost.
works,
Yeah.
somebody can tell you anything and you could
I,
overpay, thinking like, oh, so you just want to make sure you're protecting yourself by understanding some type of computer programming.
okay, makes sense. So now we're all working remotely. Let's talk about your new job as head of operations. How is that like? How does that? What's like your daily responsibilities? What does that look like?
Well, I did share some of that already. My role, it intersects with all the other positions.
Oh, so
Since
okay,
it's still brand new, I'm just making sure projects, they have a start date, they have an end date, they have their resources.
shipping
I'm
dates, stuff
looking
like
at financial management, financial strategy. Um, I'm making sure the business can run.
that. Oh, okay.
The company, the business as the company. So that's also what I did a lot in social justice movements, is
Mhm.
making sure the organization can run.
Okay. Makes
You
sense.
want to make sure, yeah, just you have an idea and you could get funds to implement the idea, but how are you going to execute things? Like, what problem are you trying to solve? And how are you like getting there? Like, how can you scale this? How can you sustain this? Like, so those are the questions. Like, what tech tools do you need? What applications do you need? So there's
Mm,
so many things that's out there that you have to be compliant for. That's basically what I'm doing now, is make sure we're compliant with everything, that we all have our applications, resources are there. You're looking at the process to make sure that things can happen. um, I love doing project management,
right.
and I think it's more like a project management type of position.
Position. Okay. Makes sense. Just generally, you already know all the nitty-gritty details, so that's pretty impressive. All right. So how your downtimes like? How like if your quiet times? I mean, do you do affirmations, yoga? Like what do you do?
So for, again, I would say I'm just now understanding downtime because of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I had no downtime.
Busy, busy, busy all
I
the time.
think it's not even, yeah, you're busy, busy all the time, but it's not like this hustle mindset. It's when you are born and you have nothing, and
Right.
your people have nothing. You don't have a safety net, and your people don't have a safety net, and there's this pressure,
Mm,
that sometimes you give yourself to be like a martyr. Like, I have to work really hard so I can produce something and then give that something to other people, so that we can continue to build momentum for like social change, or just even resources. I love, you know uh like, I work on, like, before I took this job, I worked on like 150 social justice projects a year. I had no downtime. And to me, it's just, I know there's so many people who need resources. And to me, I didn't want to me, my logic was, bad people aren't resting. Capitalism is not resting. Oppression doesn't stop.
right.
And we don't have enough good people. So I just need to stay up as long as I can and keep working and making things happen.
Hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, and again, I don't have a safety net. So if I lose my balance and fall, I'm falling hard.
Right. Right.
um, and it causes a shift, and it forces you to transform. When you fall that hard after moving that fast,
Hmm.
it forces you to sit down and reflect on, like, I wasn't sustainable as a human being, and I'm only one person. And I guess since I got my hand on this computer, I thought I could change myself to be a computer, but
Hmm.
I am not a computer. I'm only a person. And even your phone needs to power down. Like,
Right.
sometimes your phone's not acting right and you have to charge it and power it down and have
And
it restart. And guess what? We are the same way. We have to charge ourselves and we have to power down and we have to reboot. And I think that's where I'm at in life, where I'm kind of reprogramming myself and rebooting so that I can power up and in a more sustainable way where
Yeah.
I'm not reaching burnout.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've been working hard since I was like 13 and I'm tired. um, so as of late, just in 2021, you know, I have been taking time to like move my body, to journal, and give myself time to think, um, and be really intentional about the peace I want to have within and the peace I want and I feel my people also deserve. I feel, I don't know if you saw the movie One Night in Miami.
No, I haven't. I love
So,
movies. I can watch it later on.
so One Night in Miami it came out on Amazon Prime and it's about Malcolm X,
Malcolm X.
Muhammad
Okay.
Ali,
Ah, wow.
Sam Cooke, I believe, and this athlete, I can't remember this person's name. No offense to the person. They're all phenomenal legends in Black liberation movements. But in the movie, you know, Malcolm X is basically just, if you see it, he's a buzzkill, you know, like he's just like a lot. Like you can't have any fun, you can't take any breaks. Like he is just like, you have to care about social justice. You have to care about social justice. And I feel like that was me for all of my life. It's like pushing people to this urgency because I mean, but you like we see it in social media. In social media, you don't really see people struggling, people hungry, people not being able to pay their rents. Where you see is people stunting.
Yeah.
You see people
Dancing,
in
singing.
fashion.
Yeah.
You see people, you know, they live in their best lives.
Right.
But that's not representative of our actual reality.
Right.
That's like false advertisements.
Right.
So to me, I kept trying to intersect that and just tell people like the world is on fire. Like we need
To do stuff. Yeah.
we need to hold ourselves accountable. And yes, you know, you can take care of yourself. And if you want to buy yourself those nice pair of jeans, that's great. And I need you to care about what's happening in the world. Not just about a Beyonce song, but also what's happening in the world. Like, how do we care for our people?
Yeah.
And I felt it was, you know, it's very exhausting when you're trying to lift this and make this urgent call. But you have to realize like you're only one person.
Yeah, but you had a team of people you were working with, right? So I mean, so that's a good thing though.
Of
Compared to
course. Yeah, definitely. I couldn't do anything in life by myself. I've been only able to accomplish what I've been able to accomplish because I do it with a group of people.
right.
But still, you know, still as human beings, we do need to rest. But my thing was it's just having that contrast reflection of I was always just work, 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 work. And I used to have a sign like on my wall that said, "No one cares, work harder." And to me, it was just like, just work, work, work. And now I'm just like, I need time to rest and
Right.
to pray and to, you know, get my energy back up.
Right. I believe it too, as I hear. That's pretty good. We have very few people who would admit that. Um, what's the worst and best advice you've ever had? The
The
worst
worst
and best
and best
advice.
advice.
So those are two different questions.
So the worst advice I've ever heard
That somebody gave to you,
it,
not
it,
just hearing.
yeah, that someone gave to me. But I think it's a thing that people often say is like fake it until you make it. Um, and why I think it's a bad advice. I mean, it's a good and bad advice. It's like,
Mm,
um, one, I feel like if you don't know something, just let people know. Like, I
right,
don't know this, and ask questions. Like, you don't even have to say, I don't know this. Like, you can ask questions and make sure you're gathering the right information. Because a lot of times, if you fake it until you make it, then you develop this imposter syndrome where you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here, maybe because I don't
right,
know this.
right,
And all you had to do was ask a question. And guess what? Now you know it. As soon as
right.
you ask the question, you know it.
You know it,
Because
yeah.
the other person will say, blah, 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 blah. This is what it is. And if you need more time to learn it, then because of the world we're living in now, you have access to tools in your phone or, however
Yeah,
you pull up the internet, but you can learn it. So, you don't have to fake it. You can just learn it.
learn it, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I would say, yeah, that sometimes I feel I
and it
see the
ties
good
up with the
intent.
social media as well, where people just live fake lives. Same thing, like you could, see the kind of go along. Okay, cool. Best advice.
The best advice someone told me when I was like maybe 20 was, um, not to be scared to try something.
Right.
Um, so if someone gives you an opportunity and they're like, hey, Henry, I think it would be really great if you connect with Idalin and you work on this project and you be like, oh man, I don't know if I could do that. Like,
Mhm.
don't take yourself out.
Right.
Count yourself in. Unless
Right.
you're burnt out, unless that's something you don't want to do. Uh, but just don't knock it until you
Mm-hmm.
try it. Like
You
don't
try.
take your way out of the opportunity. Like go for it, see if it's something you would enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's for me, as someone from the hood who I don't have a network. I have a network now, but
Right.
back when I was younger, I had no network. I
Network.
had
Yeah.
nobody who can help give me a connect.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone introduced and were like, hey, like it would probably be really good for you to work on this project, I would say yes.
Okay.
Because then with that project, I would learn some new things and also build out my network and
Yeah.
connections and talk to
Yeah.
people, not for a transactional thing, but just because genuinely I wanted to like get to know them.
Right.
And I would be like, oh wow, you're working on this project. This is super cool. And I would still let them know what I was interested in. And what I'm still interested in is like housing for all, and to end all systems of oppression. But that's a big goal.
That's a big
Um,
one.
but I get to meet and connect with people, and then somebody on that job would say like, "Oh, I'm going to recommend you to work over here,"
Mhm.
and then I go work over there, and I've been able to go to so many places because I kept saying yes. Was I terrified? Yes, mostly because I'm a woman, and I left home being Philly. I lived in so many different places around the world and in the United States, and that's hard to do.
Right.
Um, but I
Places
kept saying,
like where? Apart from Cuba and Puerto Rico.
so I stayed in South Africa for a bit, in
Nice.
Johannesburg and Bella Bella. I've stayed in Zambia. I've went to Tunisia. I went to Morocco. I went to Spain. I went to different places in Europe, like Berlin, um, all
Just
around in like 20 different states in the US. And I just, people would say like, oh, you should try to present here or work on this project here and try this and do this. And I was like, okay, like I will try it. Um, and that's how I've been able to have this now global network of
Network, yeah.
people, and then really just connect with people who share the same vision of human rights and who really care to give back. And then you don't feel so alone in the world, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of people who care, and that's good.
Okay. Okay, cool. Before I let you, this is my final question. Before I share something else with you, what is your top, besides housing, what's your top four? Housing is one. Four projects that you're passionate about that you just wish if you do this, everything will just work. Like, what industries are they in? Is it education? Is it work? Is it what else? Is there housing? Is it like what are the top?
Yeah, so definitely I'm most passionate about education because I think, you can't take that away from anyone.
Right.
Once you know the truth, once you understand why things are the way they are, why and how systems work, once you understand, yeah, how things work, you have to understand how the world works.
Yeah.
Um, you can then change things.
Mhm.
If I don't understand how something works and I just have a solution or an idea, it may not be a solution. It may make things worse.
Right.
You don't know that impact unless you really go and study and take time to learn and understand how things work.
Right.
Not just so you can talk about it, but so you could do something. So education to me, I think is just phenomenal. I know my confidence has increased because of education. The more I learn, the more confident I feel, and the more comfortable I feel to even argue and debate people and let them know, like, actually, this does matter, and this is why it matters. And when someone from like an elite place tries to shut me down because they don't think I have the right accent, um, I get to lean in on my education and be like, actually, with my whole hood accent, I can still debate you.
It's
And people can't tell you something because you
right.
know the truth.
Right.
If you don't have education, you will believe people, whatever people say. So if you don't want to be manipulated, you need to be educated.
Right.
So to me, education, I'm super passionate around education. I'm second most passionate about mental health. To me, again, I come from a very traumatic upbringing, the crack epidemic in North Philly, as it hit a lot of major Black and Brown communities in the US in the 80s.
Right.
We went through a lot of mental trauma. And I think if you don't learn how to deal with your mental health and your triggers and your insecurities and what had happened to you, then life happens to you.
Right.
It will keep happening until you gain control to know what it is that you need, what triggers you. You have to know yourself.
Mhm.
You have to know yourself because
Yourself.
if I don't know what triggers me, but oh, I know this will get Idalin mad, and you just do this, and then I'm like,
Right.
you control me. But I
Yeah.
need to have that control of myself, of my emotions, of my triggers, of my fears. And then I know and can then grow because
Emotional
I know how to
intelligence, sort of.
calm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, mental health is definitely like number two. Um, uh, I would definitely say, I would love for people to know technology. Um, to me, I study the Black Panther Party all the time. In the 10th point of the Black Panther Party, they have community control of modern technology. And they talk about the need for the people to understand how technology works.
Works.
And they said, and this was like in 1972, they said, well, what would happen to an oppressed community if the oppressors have technology to further oppress them, versus what would happen if we own technology and we use this tool for something. And now, it's basically like 50 years later, and the oppressors still have all the rights and tools for technology, and they're not doing good with it. They're only making things worse.
Right.
And it's automated inequality. They automated inequality. They automate racism. They automate all the social ills that we see. And the more we, the good people, know about tech, the more we could protect ourselves and use it for like social good. So I do think tech would be amazing for everyone to have access. And again, if I could end poverty, systemic poverty, there will always be natural disasters. Yes. The pandemic is a natural disaster. Yeah. However, the US, for the 0.1% have made $3 trillion. Wow. Or for them to make $1 trillion while 40% of US people lost jobs, they lost wages. That's a systemic poverty issue. That's not a natural disaster. That is systemic. That's a policy issue. And if we can end systemic poverty and make sure that doesn't happen, make sure there is a redistribution of wealth, not just here in the US, but redistribution of wealth everywhere, where we pay dues for the resources that we've allocated from different countries and from different labor, I think the world would definitely be better off.
Yeah, very true. Excellent points. There are two things I'm seeing on your wall. Who's the picture on is it your left side or your right side?
This is Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
My mother and my dad, they bought me that for Christmas to go into my apartment. It was really nice of them.
Cherish it a lot.
This is my 10-year-old niece gave me this. It's Black Girl Magic. If you see my niece, she has, her big, beautiful afro, and she looks, that would be her shadow. And then this is by a Mexican-American artist. I believe she's Mexican. She's Latinx. She lives in California. Her name is Melanie Cervantes. And it says Education for Liberation. And she does movement arts. So she's an artist, and she dedicates her art to activists everywhere to use and to promote beautiful messages.
That makes sense. You read books too, I see.
Yeah.
What was the recent one you're reading?
So a good one that I'm reading is, I'm actually going to teach a class on this on February 22nd, People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. This is a pretty good one. The last one I picked up, but I have not read. So I picked up this book, Capitalism and Slavery. This is, I have not picked up this book, but it's been referenced by a lot of people that I really admire. They picked up and they talk about this, and just because people say, people quote a lot of Malcolm X. Just because you can quote Malcolm X doesn't mean Malcolm X.
You don't at all.
Not at all. It doesn't mean you even understand his ideology. So just because somebody quotes something from this book doesn't mean I understand what this book is. So it's up to us then to pick up a book and actually do the reading ourselves.
Right. And apply.
So, because how many times have scriptures been pulling from the Bible, and they say, oh, it means this one thing, and everyone's like, oh, it means this one thing.
What about the
And
other things?
exactly, exactly. Um, so yeah, you don't ever want anyone to use a quote from a book to make you think differently. Like you want to make sure you back it up and do your own research.
Let me see the name of that one again. People of United States. What did you call it?
People's
Ah, People's
history.
History. Okay,
Mhm.
nice. I read books too. I read at least one book a month.
What's your
Um,
favorite? What's the last book you read?
right now, I'm checking this one out. It's the sales acceleration formula. The
Okay.
last one was about 37 signals.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one before that was Power Plus Positive Thinking.
Oh, nice. So a business book I picked up was this Thinking
Thinking
in
in
Systems.
Systems. Ah, nice. By
So this
Donella H. Okay. Okay.
Meadows, yeah. So to me, when I've read this book, I don't know if you ever read Pedagogy of the Oppressed.
I haven't.
Uh, but to me, it made sense. Like this book, it's kind of like capitalism's pedagogy of the
Mhm.
oppressed. Like they just basically talk about that you need to understand systems if you want to understand like the impact of those
Mhm.
systems and what they're going to have um, on communities. But it's all about design thinking.
Okay.
Uh, so that is that, and then I
That's
have
pretty
like
good.
religious books that I
Yeah.
read as well.
Yeah, you should read Love and Respect if you want. That's a religious book I can recommend for you if you want to check it out. Love and Respect. It's basically
Love,
about relationships with you and your spouse, relationship with you and who you're working with, relationships in general, not just, um, so that's a pretty good one. But yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I wanted to share some things with you.